I'm David Gura. Here is the latest tweet from President Trump on a policy proposal that had been relegated to the dustbin by his advisors who were worried about its legality, about its cost, and about how it would play with the American people. Here's the tweet. The USA has the absolute legal right to have apprehended illegal immigrants transferred to sanctuary cities. We hereby demand that they be taken care of at the highest level, especially by the state of California, which is well known for its poor management and high taxes. Take note of the "we hereby demand" in that tweet. Well, this policy would affect blue states and big cities that tend to vote Democratic disproportionately. President Trump making the calculation this would be a way to exact some sort of revenge on his political rivals. Panel is back with me here in New York, and joining us is the mayor of one of those sanctuary cities. Luke Bronin is the mayor of Hartford, Connecticut, Insurance City, Hartford, Connecticut. Mayor Bronin, let me ask you first of all to react to what you've read from the president. This was something reported in the Post. The White House, Department of Homeland Security rejected it as something that they dispatched with pretty quickly. Then it came to life again in a series of tweets from the president. Your reaction to this act of retribution as he sees it?
Look, Donald Trump is doing what Donald Trump does. I'm sure he's feeling impotent right now. Democrats control the House. The Republicans seem to be feeling the first indications of a spine, although I'm not holding my breath, when they reject Herman Cain's nomination. And so he does what he does best, which is create a spectacle and create chaos to the situation in which he thrives. And that's what he's done from day one of his campaign. But this is not a serious proposal. It's not a legal proposal. It's not a responsible proposal. This is Donald Trump looking to weaponize women and children who are seeking asylum so that he can retaliate against his political opponents. It's crazy.
Pete Dominick wants to get in here with a question in just a moment, but let me ask you just the basic question. That is, if the government were to say to you, several thousand immigrants are headed your way to Hartford, what's your response to that? How welcoming is Hartford of a whole lot of migrant detainees?
Cities around the country, including Hartford, have welcomed refugees and asylum seekers for decade after decade. That is something that's fundamental to American values, to what it means to be America. And if this creates an opportunity to help stop paying private companies to keep kids in cages, then we would be glad to be part of that solution. But let's just step back. We can't let Donald Trump dictate the terms of this debate, because this isn't a serious proposal. What we should be doing is saying that we expect more from our president. We expect a president who is actually responding in a serious and thoughtful way. One, by finally talking about real, responsible, comprehensive immigration reform, and actually doing some of the things you could do right now to make the situation at the southern border better. Instead of spending nearly $1 billion on deploying the National Guard to string up barbed wire, you could be funding immigration courts and immigration judges and facilities that will allow us to humanely process asylum-seeking applications in an efficient and serious way.
Pete Dominick, he's talking about treating a humanitarian crisis like a humanitarian crisis. Pete, go ahead.
Exactly.
Good question for the mayor.
Sounds like a great mayor and a great human being. Mr. Mayor, first of all, love the city. Come to Hartford a lot. City Steam Comedy Club is one of my favorite places. Everybody should go to Hartford.
Shameless plugs
well,
here.
Hey, Hartford's an amazing city. It really is. It's really rebounded.
It is.
But when you look at this issue of immigration, when you look at the city of Hartford, how would you strike at the root of this problem? You mentioned comprehensive immigration reform, which is probably going nowhere in the United States Congress. But when you get together and talk with other mayors who are dealing with undocumented immigrants, much less refugees, which is a different situation and classification, what would you do to strike at the root of the issue in your city of Hartford?
Well, first of all, what Hartford does and what again, city after city around America does is try to build a relationship of trust between law enforcement and everyone who lives in our community, try to serve all of our residents, and recognize that that this idea that Trump has been peddling for years now, that all criminals, that all immigrants are criminals, is outrageous, and it is inconsistent with our experience, and it's inconsistent with our values as a country. So we are a welcoming place. We have always been a welcoming place, and we just try to run the best city that we can. But again, when you talk about the bigger issues, let's get back to a conversation about real comprehensive immigration reform. let's start talking again about the Dreamers. Let's start talking about how we can respond to the real increase in migration to the southern border. Donald Trump is doing exactly the wrong thing. You have a migration increase that's driven by instability and violence and poverty in Central American countries. And Donald Trump's response, amazingly, is to say we should cut off aid to those countries. So what I have to do as a mayor, and what mayors around the country and cities around the country have to do, is think thoughtfully and seriously about policy challenges and try to address them in a real way, not just do what Donald Trump does, which is create a crisis so that he can dominate the media narrative for a couple more days.
Last question here, and I highlighted it in the intro. I said the president wrote, "We hereby demand." There's a royalist flair to what the president wrote on Twitter in that tweet. You're getting to this, I think, in what you're saying, that last answer, but there's a movement away from trusting or entrusting the federal government on these issues, isn't there?
Well, the federal government has been AWOL for a while now, and Donald Trump said yesterday or the other day that he alone is in control of American immigration policy. Well, it's not working all that well. So let's get back to having a serious conversation. Democrats are ready for that conversation. Cities, including Hartford, are ready to be part of that solution, and we would like nothing more than to have a president who is willing to have an actual conversation about policy issues rather than political theater.
All right.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.